still in Kenya, truckers have resumed normal operations after the flow of goods between Kenya and neighboring countries was interrupted this week with the announcement of the presidential results. The chaos and uncertainty that had been witnessed in some pockets of the country saw truckers withdraw from the roads, paralyzing trade along the northern corridor. Joining us from Nairobi to discuss further, we have Churchill Ogutu, economist at IC Asset Managers. Hopefully later we have Kidra Adam, who's the CEO of Snack Attack, joining us later. Churchill, good afternoon to you. Thank you so much for joining us. I want to start with Tanzania. What do you make of the growth triggers in the first quarter for the Tanzanian nation, for GDP?
Thank you, Reuters. I think it boils down to a number of the sectors that had an outsized performance in the first quarter. We saw the water supply sector growing by 11.9%. This was because of improved water infrastructure and also the increased capacity. So that led to that growth. We also saw the finance and insurance sector increasing by 10%. Majorly, we saw growth rates in deposits and lending, and also increased uptake insurance services. And lastly, mining. Mining grew by 8.5%. There was increased production in diamond, salt, silver, and other mine products. So those factors led to the 5.4% growth that we saw in Tanzania. But nonetheless, comparing to regional peers, Tanzania was a laggard in the first quarter. Rwanda grew by 7.9%, Kenya by 6.8%, Uganda by 5.6%.
Thank you. Thank you for that, the comparison there. So what's the trade relationship like between Tanzania and Kenya?
Yeah, I think it's on a rebound since the President Samia took power. In the first quarter, the total trade between Kenya and Tanzania was around 26.2 billion shillings. That's around $202 million, with 54% tilted towards Kenya. That's where the import from Kenya to Tanzania, whereas 46% was now from Kenya to Tanzania. That said, Kenya basically imports edible food, cereals, majorly maize from Tanzania, whereas Kenyan mainly exports pharmaceutical products, iron and steel products to Tanzania. So that relationship is still strong following the assumption of office by the current president for Tanzania.
Excellent, excellent. Now, I want to get to this education sector and this World Remit report saying that education costs will be almost twice what households are paying right now. How much of an impact is that going to have?
I think it will be hard dire for parents who are sorting out their school fees for their kids. Just to put it into context, this year we have had 4 academic terms for the school year. This is because during COVID-19 pandemic period, there was a number of months that schools didn't go to school. So since sometime mid last year up until right now, there's a catch up. And remember, there's also elections. So all this has now led to the increased number of terms in an academic year 4 as compared to 3. So already parents are in a dire situation whereby, as opposed to planning adequately for the school terms, now they have more school terms to compare with, and also the rising cost of living. So that is compounding a dire situation for parents as they meet the payment of school fees for their children.
Thank you for that. Tough times. The trucking matter, as far as the disruption in trucking we saw because of the election announcement, is there an over-reliance on trucks for moving goods across the border? Do you see, I guess, other forms of transportation like rail improving things, or is trucking the main, or the roads rather, the main source of moving goods, cargo goods?
Yeah, I think right now there's a reliance for roads, not surprising, because of the fact that with roads, it ensures that the last mile transportation is closer to the customer. Right now, within the region, we have the Northern Corridor Transit and Transport Coordination Authority, basically linking Kenya and the regional landlocked countries such as Uganda, Rwanda, DRC and also South Sudan. So all these countries are bundled with this authority. But there are a number of other modes of transport that are expected to follow. There's the roads, there's the railway, there's also the inland waterways, and also the pipeline. But so far, the road transport is quite elaborate. So it's not surprising that there's a reliance for roads at this point in time. At some point, we expected that the standard gauge railway transport will be enhanced from the port of Mombasa all the way to Uganda via the port border point of Malaba between Kenya and Uganda. But because of feasibility concerns, that was now shelved off. So right now, I think we just need to contend with the road transport for truckers.
Great stuff. Okay, so I want to get to the election now. I know Odinga is contesting the results, and there's a process that follows. But assuming Ruto, is sworn in as president of Kenya, he's president-elect right now. What do you make of the business environment? Will that improve under him if when he's sworn in?
I think the administration will have to contend with two main things. The first one is inflation. Cost of goods has risen up quite high over the last couple of months. So it has to contend with the inflation to bring the cost of goods down. First, he'll now be able to do that by reducing the cost of fuel in the country, and secondly, also trying to fix the concerns around the FX, because there's a high import inflation to the country. The other issue that they'll have to contend with, remember that the Ruto campaign was now trumpeting the so-called bottom-up economic philosophy, whereby the economy will now be able to support the people at the lower end of the pyramid. So at the main cracks for the coming administration is at least to ensure that the challenging environment that faces the informal sector has to be reduced. And also we are seeing a commitment during the manifesto is at least to ensure that the spending arrears right now is around 404 billion shillings. That's around $4.2 billion. There's an easy way of resolving the arrears to the private sector. So these two things, inflation and also the resolution of the pending bills, will go a long way of ensuring that the business environment is more or less sorted.
All right, great. Thank you for that. Ruto is, I believe, he's a farmer. He's an agriculture guy. He seems to be pretty big on agriculture. I think he said he was going to, allocate a large amount of money there. Do you expect improvements there for like local farmers with respect to what he plans to do for agriculture?
Based on the manifesto that has been put out by Kenya-Kwanza, Kenya-Kwanza is now the coalition that now brought Deputy President to power as the winner. So based on their manifesto, there are a number of things around the agriculture. One is that they will be able to ensure that there's affordable credit to farmers to support that particular sector. The other one is bringing on board the guaranteed minimum returns. So for instance, if you're a farmer, say a milk farmer or whatever farmer you are into, there's that guaranteed minimum return. So it means that the business is quite profitable. And so, but all this, it will depend on how quickly they are able to bring on board their policies. Remember, this is not the first time that you're having agriculture specific kind of reform. Under the current outgoing administration, we had what we call the Big Four agenda, and agriculture was one of the four planks of that, but you didn't see it coming into fruition. So this will be an opportunity for the incoming administration to be more creative around the agriculture, because there is a linkage between agriculture and also the manufacturing through the agro-processing. So that's also another thing that the incoming regime will be able to address as it gets into power.
Great stuff. Churchill, of course, an economist with IC Asset Managers. Let's bring in a business owner also in Nairobi, Kadir Adam, who is the CEO of Snack Attack. And Kadir, we spoke with you before the elections. You were very optimistic, saying that you believed that things would pick up after the election was over. So I want to get your take, Kadir, and thanks for joining us. As far as the business environment for you as a business owner under a Ruto presidency, if he ends up being sworn in, we know Odinga is challenging the result. What's your take on how you think the business environment will be like under President Ruto in Kenya?
Yeah, thanks for having me again on the show. Like I said last week, if we have a good election, which I thought we would, things will go back to normal. And today I've just come from a meeting, and the roads are busy. Business as usual. The markets are full. That's a very good sign. People have decided to get on with business, get on with life, and I think that's the mood. A lot of new opportunities. People that were holding back their investments are now going to start looking for investments. So just as a simple example, we had a lot of people who wanted to take franchises from our restaurant business, and they were waiting for the elections. And this week, we're already seeing meetings set up, to discuss those further. So I'm very excited. I think these are going to be good.
All right, excellent stuff, Kadir. Churchill, let me bring you back in. Will you think Ruto will keep up the pressure on predatory loans in the digital space, Churchill?
I think the environment that has facilitated the so-called fintechs who are quite high with the predatory lending is still here with us. We have a vibrant mobile technology space in Kenya, so that can't be wished away. So the environment is still there. So probably, and that's also came out in their manifesto, is that they'll be able to address it through what's called a hustler fund. That's a fund that is expected now to issue out some low-cost funding to businesses or individuals rather than them going to the predatory lending space. And also another thing that they have said they'll be able to bring on board is now the issue around the data protection legislation. Because right now, most of the predatory lenders, they have this thing whereby they ensure that data protection is quite a big issue. If a consumer who has borrowed from a predatory lender ends up defaulting that loan, you find that the whole village, if I may put it that way, gets to hear about this particular borrower. So that will be strengthened with the data protection framework, which will ensure that this kind of malpractices will not be a thing in the future.
Gentlemen, thank you so much for your time. Churchill Ogutu, economist with IC Asset Managers. Kadir Adams, CEO of Snack Attack. Thanks for joining us to see how things work out on the Ruto presidency for the nation of Kenya.